When it comes to the world of the paranormal and supernatural, there can never be enough information. There is always something more to learn. There's always a mystery to solve that will help bridge the gap between those who rest beyond the grave and those active in the physical world. While people who investigate the paranormal are captivated by any type of intelligent response, it's something extremely invigorating when said response comes from an entity claiming to be demonic. In recent years, we've seen a growth of interest in these entities. Perhaps this is due to the various media that millions around the globe has access to. It's also quite known that when demonic entities are involved, bad things tend to follow. While traces of these entities can be found throughout various cultures dating back several millennia, not very much information exists on how to notice and ultimately deal with them. Melinda Lyons hopes to change that and has written a guide titled Demons and Familiars, a Contemporary Guide of Demonology. So, is this guide the ultimate resource for figuring out and dealing with a demonic haunting? Or is it something that should be cast into the bowels of the earth and forgotten about? Well, I'm Melvin, and I hope to answer that question for you as Unexplained Possibilities reviews Demons and Familiars, a Contemporary Guide of Demonology. Melinda Lyons claims to be a psychic medium and demonologist who has had a heck of a time writing Demons and Familiars. The book actually has a warning claiming that demons and familiar entities are aware of the person reading and for the reader to tread lightly. Melinda also shares in small detail events that took place and happened to her while writing this book. From abnormally strong earthquakes and mysterious power outages to very frightening demonic attacks, Melinda survived them all and completed her book. I commend Melinda for not only completing this book, but also publishing it herself. Many people set off to do the same, but end up failing for various reasons. Also, the cover art and chapter illustrations are very well done. So much so, they're some of the best part of the book. Yes, you heard me. The illustrations are some of the best part of the book. Saying that, you probably can guess where this review is headed. Demons and Familiars can be looked at in two ways. First, as a guide, and then as entertainment. So, let's talk about the guidance aspect of the book first. Frankly, in my opinion, there isn't even the bare minimum of guidance needed to become aware of and protect yourself from demonic entities. In fact, I would say the little guidance offered would be laughed at by those in the paranormal field. One key problem I find with the book is actually getting to the guidance part. There are many chapters filled with ramblings of non-sequential and useless information. Oftentimes I found myself stating aloud, "What is this woman going on about?" If there was a part of any chapter where Melinda was starting to make sense, it would soon be lost. While Melinda claims in the book to have years of experience and knowledge she acquired not only from her confrontations with otherworldly entities, but also her guides and twin flame, well, I just don't see it. Instead, in my eyes, this book reflects basic surface level knowledge that isn't put in a coherent way for the reader to understand. I openly admit to not knowing the qualifications one needs to be considered a demonologist, and after reading this book, I'm not so sure Melinda knows what they are either. While I have a healthy respect for anyone in the field who is willing to investigate and find information on demonic entities, one simply cannot dismiss the readily available text that has survived over the years. I was truly shocked to find no mention of grimoires. I somewhat expected her to cite the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Dictionary Inferno, or even the Grand Grimoire, also known as the Red Dragon. It feels as though Melinda read a couple of things from Ed and Lorraine Warren, threw in a little Stephen King, added some Lovecraft, and for good measure topped it off with The Exorcist. Not only that, Melinda didn't confer with other people in the field, be it investigators, demonologists, or psychics. It's a huge missed opportunity for a book that is supposed to be a guide to help people. It's as if Melinda feels she has all, or at least a good portion, of the answers for all questions. I can say that she certainly falls very well short of that if this book is anything to go by. Expanding further on this, from what I can tell, Melinda comes off a bit self-centered in the book and almost like she's super medium. And a major gripe of mine is how many times she said she's a psychic medium. It is slapped across your face almost every chapter. The reader gets it. You're a psychic medium, Melinda. Congrats. Once you make it past all the nonsense and actually get to the chapters that can educate and help people, you find more nonsense. Chapter 5 of the book actually starts off with a warning cautioning the reader of the risk to speaking about these entities openly, which I find laughable. Melinda already warned that these entities already know a person is reading the book, and they being the demonic entities, are already onto the reader. It makes no sense to warn about speaking openly about these entities if they already know about the person. If these beings are as powerful and filled with the hate and evil the book describes, then they're going to do something regardless. As I'm still alive and haven't seen any ill effects after reading Demons and Familiars, I guess they don't consider me worthy enough of torturing. My point is, Melinda is using a fear tactic to build intrigue which ultimately falls flat. Even if she truly believes what she says, it's ridiculous, and that's the only way to put it. Getting into chapter 5, you'll see that it introduces a type of scale that gives you an idea of danger you'll be in from these entities. The scale ranges from 1 to 10, 10 being the most dangerous and 1 being the least. While this is one of the more interesting chapters of the book, I couldn't help but ask myself, what is this chick going on about? These scales assume a risk factor not based on intent, but solely based on the entity being something that is of a darker energy. I can't express enough how much these scales of hers assume. I do want to give her credit for separating the demons from devils, as there are indeed differences between the two. However, she falls short as to knowing the true differences, and Christian influence has warped her understanding between the two. Once again, this shows me that she didn't do deep research to find the origins and actually understand what she's saying. Demon is derived from the Greek word daimon. In Latin, they say demon, but they're spelled two different ways. The Greek word is D-A-I-M-O-N, while the Latin word is D-A-E-M-O-N and is pronounced demon like demon in English. Daimon were protective and guiding spirits. When the Abrahamic beliefs rose to fame, the priests corrupted the original usage and meaning of daimon, and they turned it into demon. They used this to disparage people away from other belief systems. Now, demon is mostly used as a general term for a spirit that is of dark energy and nature. Devil is a personification of evil that's more like a title than an actual being, meaning that if you want the devil to exist, then it exists, but if you don't, then it doesn't. While there are demons who may take on that title for various reasons, to say they are purely evil without knowing their intent is clearly an overstepping of boundaries. This is why it's important to research and not go off on a whim or a feeling all the time, something Melinda clearly does when going over her scale. I also found it extremely ironic that Melinda talks about Christian influence and basically how it corrupts and gives misinformation, yet her book is doing the same. Although I will say that it's in an unintentional way. Also in chapter 5, I take issue with that she is speaking in generalities. If you're going to discuss demons, then actually talk about them. Talk about Baal, Paimon, Belial, or even Ashtaroth. Or getting away from the Abrahamic demonic entities, how about Wendigo from Native American lore, Adukuro from Japanese lore, Drekavac from Slavic lore, or even Kronzon, which is from the Telema. The book misses so much from other cultures, especially with it only being focused on the very basics of the Abrahamic belief. The next few chapters of the book talk about the signs of possession, with each sign having its own chapter. These chapters then lead into techniques that can help protect you from attacks by negative entities and how to get rid of them. Interestingly enough, Melinda has 4 signs of possession, which are infestation, oppression, influence, and possession. Melinda added influence to the signs of possession and claims that many demonologists and even exorcists miss the influence stage. In this stage, the entity doesn't have full control of the person they're trying to possess, and the person still has their free will, but the entity influences the choice of that person. It can be a change of music, hairstyle, more aggression, etc. While there is no official signs of possession list, most don't say influence because possession is somewhat broad. Melinda's influence stage is pretty much partial possession. Now, I'm wondering if this influence stage was added just to try and be different and stand out from the rest. I don't have much to say about the chapters going over the signs of possession because it's pretty much cookie cutter. Also, as usual, Melinda didn't give examples of actual cases of possession, and why would she? At this point, I'm convinced if she didn't see it in a movie or paranormal show, then she doesn't know it exists. Now, of the various chapters of infestation, oppression, influence, and possession, Melinda does write about the signs, and she goes into some detail, which was amazing, finally. But again, it was just very basic and bare bone descriptions, and I sound like a broken record, but Melinda doesn't give examples of the actual cases where these were taken from. I must stress again, I feel that in the process of writing this book, Melinda did not research the different cases and only put in things she's seen in popular media. Some of what she mentions is levitation, personality changes, sudden rage, and speech changes. 2 things on that list I question and wonder where she got them from, and that's sleepwalking and teleportation. While I suppose an entity could cause one to sleepwalk during a blackout episode, the teleportation has thrown me for a loop. I don't know of any cases involving someone teleporting, and Melinda certainly didn't cite any. So how can I know for sure this is a real thing? Melinda is asking for the reader to take her at face value on most things written in the book, and fact of the matter is, I can't. Melinda has consistently shown throughout the book that she lacks the knowledge and understanding needed, as well as experience for me to take her at face value. It's not up for the reader to say, hey, yeah, I trust you. Yeah, no, it's up to her and her writings to give examples of what she's talking about, to cite sources, to cite cases, and she fails at that. Finally, at the end, we have the cleansing advice. For full disclosure, on this part of the book, I actually spoke to someone who does spiritual cleanings, as well as communicate with beings of different energy, be it dark, light, or something in between. Melinda actually lists real things such as burning sage, using crystals, salt, and candles. Those items are still being used for protection today in the modern age, and also for the cleansing of spiritual energy. However, as this book has shown me, when Melinda gets on the right track, she tends to go the wrong way. Melinda mentions getting rid of items that may have been used in a type of ritual, an example being a Ouija board. However, Melinda gives the advice to burn the board. The spiritual advisor I was speaking with says that's a terrible idea and it's not going to close the portal or get rid of the energy. Instead, one should rip the board up into 7 pieces and bury it on sacred ground, but don't burn it. Why Melinda didn't add multiple ways of getting rid of a Ouija board is beyond me, but most spiritual advisors agree burning the board is a terrible idea. Next, Melinda talks about saging, and saging a home from the inside out, which actually makes sense. But then Melinda mentions something she calls a spirit lockdown. A spirit lockdown is basically you saging from the outside in and thus trapping the spirit with you, and the spirit is angry. The spiritual advisor I was consulting with literally took back a compliment she was about to give to Melinda. As I was reading more of the solutions, a particular thing caught my interest, and it made me wonder if Melinda saw the film The Skeleton Key, starring Kate Hudson. In the film, it was said that a hoodoo practice was to put brick dust in a straight line across the entrance to a house. A person who has bad intentions won't be able to cross. Well, Melinda said something similar, and that was to place salt in a straight line across the entrance. While salt has properties that'll keep certain energies away, it won't do anything to stop a physical body. So that bit of advice is completely useless and possibly was mixed up from something else. Maybe the skeleton key. I don't know. Melinda mentions white candles. She claims that white candles are good for bringing in positive energy. While that is one aspect of them, she doesn't go into detail about full aspects of the candle, and again, I'm forced to assume she doesn't know exactly what she's talking about. Melinda mentions, along with white candles, red candles, and how there's a misconception that they're a sign of love. Melinda claims that it's a sign of blood and physical harm. People who used red candles suffered penalties, she claims. Melinda also warns to stay away from black candles. Melinda says that it's a misconception that black candles are supposed to be used for one's safety. This is not right at all, she would say. Instead, Melinda claims that black candles should never be used, and if a person has used them and come under spiritual attack, they should toss the candles immediately. However, as usual, Melinda doesn't say why, and it's frustrating. When I was discussing this with the spiritual advisor, they legit laughed out loud and said that Melinda is way off on the candles. They were pretty annoyed by her. For your information, red candles have never represented blood or physical harm, but instead they're used for love, sensuality, courage, and protection. Black candles are indeed powerful, but they are used to ward off evil spirits, the very thing this guide is supposed to help you with. They also help in removing hexes and negative energy in general. However, on the flip side, they can also be used to cause harm, but there is a risk of what goes around comes around. The best advice Melinda gives is to seek out a spiritual advisor to assist you and help you do what's necessary to get rid of negative energy. So, is demons and familiars viable as a guide? Heck no. This book is filled with non-detailed, short-sighted, useless, and just plain bad information. And this part that I'm about to mention gave me a chuckle. Melinda suggests that when seeking a spiritual advisor, to not be afraid to ask them about their experience and for the person to do their homework. If I base what I know about Melinda off this book alone, then clearly her clients have not done her homework. Just simply based off this book, Melinda wouldn't be on the list of people I'd call for anything. This book is unusable as a guide, and anyone who knows anything about the paranormal or has done a small amount of research would never recommend this book as a guide for anyone going through anything spiritually related. Now, what about the second thing? The entertainment aspect of the book. It's a crummy guide, but surely it's entertaining, you might ask. The answer to that is nope. This is not an entertaining book. In fact, this is a very painfully slow and boring book. It has a terrible flow. It's pages and pages of rambling and nonsense. This book is not scary. It's not funny. It's not interesting. It barely has a so-called guide, and I had to force myself to finish it. I wondered why there were no reviews on this on YouTube. Now I know. No one finished this book. It's flat out bad. There's no hiding it or sugarcoating it. The book is bad in just about every single way. The cover art and chapter illustrations are the best thing going for it. Also, I'm not a grammar Nazi, but the grammatical errors are ridiculous. I can only assume that Melinda did not have an editor. If she did have one, she should demand her money back. While I did and do commend Melinda for getting the book done, I just can't recommend it. The only way I can see people enjoying this or finding it interesting is if they are brand new to the paranormal field and they know nothing, or they blindly support the author. No one who researches the paranormal, investigates the paranormal, or is psychic, a demonologist, or anything resembling the sort would take this book seriously. People who are actually in need of help should not pick this book up. It will only end up causing more harm. Interestingly, I noticed that Melinda has a pretty nice talent for putting words together that seem to make a lot of sense, but in actuality they don't. It's literally her just rambling on and on and on and on. To someone who is ignorant to the paranormal, it looks amazing. To everyone else, it looks laughable. If you're looking for guidance, speak to someone who does paranormal investigating. Don't be afraid to speak to spiritual workers from different cultures. Pick up grimoires and visit occult shops and ask questions. For entertainment, you have many other and better choices. Just about anything from the Warrens, Jonathan Janz, and even a few things by Neil Gaiman. While I realize I've been hard on this book, and it's because ignorant things like this can lead to someone stumbling into some pretty messed up things and ultimately lead to harm, I do want to make something clear. In no way, shape, or form do I think Melinda has malicious intent or is trying to scam people out of money with demons and familiars. I think the book was a project close to her, and deep down, and even on the surface, she really wants to help people, but she doesn't have the tools, knowledge, or guidance to do so. If Melinda ever writes another book that's supposed to be a guide, then I would highly recommend that she place the guidance part of the book in between stories or events, experiences that she claims to have had, so it's not so much of a tedious read. While I doubt Melinda can ever write a true and useful guide, she can make something entertaining. The little bonus making of demons and familiar section caught my attention, even though it's widely unbelievable, but that's her truth and I won't attempt to take that away from her. Saying that, this book isn't good as a guide or for entertainment value. However, It's better than gouging out your eyes with daggers, but it falls short of the entertainment you'll get from watching paint dry. And there you have it. Thank you all for checking out this review, and don't forget to follow Unexplained Possibilities on Facebook, Twitter, and now Reddit. Yes, that's right, we now have a Reddit. The links to all of those can be found in the description below, and if you want more reviews from Unexplained Possibilities or have a suggestion for a review, go ahead, let us know in the comments section down below. And stay tuned as more from Unexplained Possibilities will be dropping soon.